Let's take some tzedakah, put in the pushka, and let me share a little Torah tefillah tzedakah is what is going to take us out of exile. But let me start with a little light anecdote. This community who the old rabbi, the old style shtetl rabbi, unfortunately passed on, and now they hired a young, good-looking rabbi, straight out of yeshiva and college, and he has a doctorate. He's a rabbi and a doctor, and he's introduced to the community as Dr. Rabbi. The next morning, one of the congregants calls up the rabbi, and he says, "Doctor, I have a sore throat. What should I do?" So the rabbi gives a little chuckle and says, "I'm not this kind of a doctor, so I can't really help you with that." Okay. The next day he calls back, "Rabbi, I have my shoulder that is hurting me." And once again the rabbi says, "I'm not this kind of a doctor." Upon the third time, when now he has a pain in his leg, and the rabbi again says, "I'm not this kind of a doctor." So finally this individual, the simpleton, is asking the rabbi, "So what kind of doctor are you?" He says, "I'm a doctor in philosophy." "Oh yeah? What kind of sickness is this?" When we're talking about our belief in God, is it philosophy? Is it some kind of my personal understanding? Or is it greater and deeper than that? So let us look at this week's conversation between God and Avraham Avinu, where God came and tells Avraham that your wife will have a child. He was 100, she was 90. Vayomer Avraham el Elokim, so Avraham says to God, "Lu Yishmael yichya lefonecha." If only Yishmael will live in fear of you, that would be sufficient. If Yishmael will be a good boy, he will follow your ways, I'll be very happy. And God says, indeed, you will have a child, and you will name him Yitzchak, and it is with him that I will establish my covenant, eternal covenant to him and his future children. Now, as far as your son Yishmael, I heard what you said. I will bless him. I will multiply them. He will be very numerous, 12 tribes, 12 Nisim. He will be a great nation. But my covenant I'm making with Yitzchak, not with Yishmael. What's this dialogue here? We know that Yishmael's birth was a natural birth, normal, everything was fine. Yitzchak's birth was a miraculous birth. Sarah was 90, Avraham was 100, she was barren, yet with God's blessing, she gave birth. As further we see, Yishmael was circumcised at the age of 13, and Yitzchak was circumcised at the age of 8 days. In fact, the Medrash tells us that Yishmael at one point was arguing with Yitzchak, says, "I'm superior to you. You did the bris, you have no choice." He had to say in the matter, I had a choice. I was an adult. I was able to say no, and I did it. So what's the difference, fundamental difference between Yishmael and Yitzchak? And the answer is, he might be a doctor in philosophy. But Yitzchak is not a doctor. Yitzchak is an intrinsic, an essential, a totally soul connection, which is not based on experiences, which is not based on natural phenomena, which is not based on knowledge, which is not based on personal conviction with studies. Yishmael was a natural human being, so to say. He looked at nature, and he looked at the world, and he realized God exists. Yitzchak was supra-rational, supernatural. Yitzchak was a miraculous being. Miracle represents what? a revelation of God himself. A miracle represents that this is God's doing. So that's what the Torah says. Avraham Avinu said, I will content myself if Yishmael is going to be God-fearing. In other words, that a natural human being will recognize the existence of God, which is what he was doing. But God says, that's true. I accept this. I recognize this. It's valuable. But when we're talking about an eternal bond, the eternal bond is what is beyond nature. The bris is done at the 8th day, the day of representing infinite, because this is our bond with God. And this is why Moshiach is the 8th day, because it's beyond the finite. May it happen today.